Hi, welcome back. This is a continuation of a morning lecture on the existence of a basis. Okay, due to my negligence, the second part of the lecture was not recorded. So I want to continue with that and finish it. So let me start sharing the screen. Yeah, okay. The second result we want to prove is again an existence theorem. What it says is let V be a finite dimensional vector space. Okay, let S in B be a linearly independent subset. Okay, let's assume V is not 0 and S is not empty. Linearly independent subset. Then there exists a basis B of V so that S is a subset of B. Right? Compare this with the last result. Last result said S is a spanning set. From that, I can pick up a basis. I can extract a basis. Here it says, let S be any linearly independent set. Okay, I can extend it to a basis. Think intuitively. Suppose B is n-dimensional and S has B1, V2, Vk, where k is less than n, for example, right? And V1, V2, Vk are linearly independent. Now, what does this theorem say? I can extend it to a basis. That means I can find U1, U2, UR where R equal to n minus k, so that V1, V2, Vk union U1, U2, UR will be a basis. That is what we mean by this. Okay, but there is a kind of shorthand mantra which says that this theorem can be paraphrased by saying any linearly independent subset can be extended to a basis of V. This is easier to chant. Yeah, any linearly independent subset can be extended to a basis. Okay, this is a very, very useful result. So let us go through the proof. Okay. So before going through the proof, okay, what does it mean? I have to find a B which contains S and B is a basis, right? So let's look at, we have 4 characterization of a basis. Which one will be most useful to prove this result? Okay. So when it's extended to linearly independent set, there are 2 such characterization. One characterization said it's a maximal linearly independent subset. A basis is a maximal linearly independent set. The other one said it's a linearly independent set which is also a spanning set, right? Now remember, we are in a paradoxical case. What result do you think, which one of these characterization will be useful? In fact, both are useful, but in this case, what do you think I will invoke? Which characterization I would like to use? Can you guess? Maximal linearly independent. Compare with the earlier result. S is a spanning set. So I wanted to look for minimal spanning set. Here it's a linearly independent set. Therefore, I should look for maximal linearly independent subset. Do you understand that? Do you see the duality? Very good. So that's what we want to prove. Therefore, we shall show there exists a maximal linearly independent subset. Now, how do I get it? It should contain S. Therefore, what kind of thing I should look for? I should look for a subset A of V, so that A must be linearly independent. And 2, S must be a subset of B, subset of A. You understand that? I should look for such sets. So let us make a collection script A, which is set of all subsets A of B, so that A is linearly independent, and 2, S is a subset of A. Okay. Now, is the set empty? Certainly not, because I can take A to be S. S is an element of A. Therefore, this is non-empty. Right? Next. we want to make use of something like in this set, I want to find a maximal linearly independent subset, right? The way we want to do it, like we did in the earlier case, using natural numbers. Okay. In the infinite dimensional case, I'm going to use Zorn's lemma. Let's not worry about it. Okay. Now, how do I do that? Let us recall a fact which I proved in constructing bases, in the video on constructing bases, construction of bases. Okay. In that, what did we prove was the following. Suppose S is, forget this S, this is something else. Okay. If S is a finite spanning set, okay, let us assume S equal to n, and let A be any linearly independent set. Okay. No, but let us do that. Okay. Then we said that if V1 to Vm are in V and M is strictly greater than n, then this set is linearly dependent. That is, any collection of M vectors is linearly dependent if M is strictly greater than n. In particular, if I have n plus 1 vectors, it will be linearly independent. The reason why I'm not writing it as a subset is I may be able to do like this: V1, V1, 2V1, okay, V4, etc. So V2 maybe V1, V3 maybe 2V1, okay. So we are not saying they are all distinct, but any collection, okay, V1 to Vm. Do you understand this? This we proved. As a corollary, if you say A is a linearly independent subs, linearly independent, then what do I know about mod A? The number of elements in A. It must be less than or equal to n. Why? Because the moment it has more than n elements, by this result it will be linearly dependent. But I am assuming it's linearly independent. Therefore, any subset will have this. Is that clear? We want to make use of this result. Okay, this is a recall. We want to make use of this result. How do we make use of this? Okay. So let M, okay, now take any A in script A. Therefore, what do I know? Mod A is less than or equal to, okay, no, this is not correct. Since V is a finite dimensional space, okay, there exists a finite subset, finite spanning set. Okay, let E be one such finite spanning set, right? Let E equal to number of elements in E may be n. Okay. Now start with any A in script A. Remember, A is linearly independent. Therefore, what do I know about mod A? It will be less than or equal to n. Okay. Therefore, in this, let us look at, as we did in the last case, let M be the set of all mod A where A is in script A. That is the number of elements in A where A is an element of the family A. Then what do I know? So if a natural number M belong to this, okay, then M must be less than or equal to n. Right? Therefore, capital N is an upper bound for the set M, and these are all integers, natural numbers. You understand? Therefore, for any A in script A, what do we have is 1 is less than or equal to mod A is less than or equal to n. Why mod A is greater than or equal to 1? Remember, S is a subset of A and S is non-empty. Therefore, mod A will be greater than or equal to 1. Do you understand this? Therefore, actually M is a subset of these numbers. Do you agree with that? Okay. And therefore, this is a finite set. Okay. Notice that the family script A may be infinite. There may be infinitely many subsets A with this property. Do you understand? But if I look at only the number of elements, then this M is a finite set. Okay. Try to appreciate this kind of thing. Okay. Therefore, it has a maximum. Let N equal to maximum of M. Okay. What does that mean? N, therefore, N is an element of M. If n is an element of n, what does it mean? There exists set A in script A, so that mod A equal to n. Right? So what do I know about A? A is linearly independent and S is a subset of A because A belongs to script A. Right? Now what is, since n is the maximum, intuitively I would like to claim that A is maximal linearly independent set. Of course, which contains S. Okay. Now why it's maximally linearly independent set? Because if B is a, okay, is a set, B is strictly contained, A is strictly contained in B and B is linearly independent. Okay. Now notice that S is a subset of A and A is a subset of B and B is linearly independent. So what does this say? This says B is in script A. Yeah, right. Since script A, B belongs to script A, therefore mod B belongs to M. Right? And n is the maximum of mod M. Therefore, what do I know? Mod B is less than or equal to n. Right? But remember, A is a proper subset of B. Therefore, mod A should be strictly less than mod B. But what do I know about mod A? Mod A is n. So what do I get? I get n is strictly less than n. So this is a contradiction. Yeah. So this contradiction proves that A has to be maximal linearly independent set. Okay. And as I observed, A belongs to script A, that means S is also contained in A. Since A is maximal linearly independent set, A is a basis. And since A belongs to script A, B, S is a subset of this. Therefore, I have produced a basis containing S. Do all of you agree with that? Okay. Pause, review, proceed. Okay. Now, this is the proof which I gave. You can see it's a theoretical proof. What do I mean by that? If you give me S a linearly independent set, it only says there exists a basis which contains S. But in a given concrete situation, can I construct such a basis? You understand what I mean? So I have a B, a parent vector space. S is a linearly independent set. Okay. I want to construct a basis so that S is subset of B. Okay. How do I construct in a concrete situation? Okay. Remember, because in 21st century, linear algebra is more or less the foundation of computational mathematics. Okay. So almost every branch, especially nowadays, machine learning, artificial intelligence, image processing, and so on and so forth, computer vision, all these things need the linear algebra. And even you want to do in a computer, then you have to put in terms of numbers and you may have to compute. So it's very important, along with algebraic way of looking at things, theoretical way of looking at things, we should also get some kind of, we should become familiar with the computational aspects too. Okay. So let us do that. Okay. Let us look at this. I will give two such examples. Okay. Let us start with the simplest example. One, B is I take R4 and my set S is E1 plus E2 and E1 plus E3 and E1 plus E4. Okay. It's easy to check, it's linearly independent. Because A times this, B times this, C times this will be A plus B plus C times E1 plus B times, okay, A times E2 plus B times E3 plus C times E4. That is equal to 0. But, okay, I should have said what are E1, E2, E4? I'm sure all of you know this is the standard basic vectors as I had explained in some earlier video. Yeah, we know this is the basis of R4, and here the dimension of R4 is 4. All these things we have seen in earlier somewhere, right? Okay, that's the notation I'm using. This is a linearly independent set because A times this plus B times this plus C times this equal to 0 implies E1 comes with the A, B, C, therefore A plus B plus C times E1, and A times E2, E2 does not occur anywhere, and B times E3 plus C times E4 equal to 0. Now E1, E2, E3, E4 is a basis. That means this must be C must be 0, B must be 0, A must be 0. So we proved it. Okay, this is linearly independent. Now I want to extend it to a basis of R4. How do I look for that? Okay, this is where one I just want to illustrate. In fact, I should have started with that general principle earlier. Okay, now let's look at. Okay, now I know E1, E2, E3, 4 is a basis. Here in the S, I have E1 plus E2, E1 plus E3, E1 plus E4, right? Okay, so suppose I choose some element U, in R4, so that U is not in the linear span of S. That is not a linear combination of these three vectors. Okay, then S union U will be linearly independent. This is according to our definition, right? I hope you have seen my video on linear dependence independence. Okay, if a vector U is not in the linear span of V1, V2, Vk, then U, V1, V2, Vk is a linearly independent set. Therefore, this is linearly independent, right? Now I have to look for somebody who is linearly independent. Can somebody guess? Yeah. Is E1 linearly dependent on this? Because what will it mean? This will, I have to find this as some E1. E1 should be able to write it, right? That means this is 0, this is 0, this is 0. But then this is 0. And similarly E2, E3, E4. Are you following what I mean? I was just trying to be economical. Suppose I want to claim E1 is linearly independent, right? Suppose linearly dependent, that means there is scalars A times this, B times this, C times this must be equal to E1. As I did earlier, I am writing that, collecting the coefficients properly. Then this must be equal. Remember, these are linearly E1, E2, E3, 4 is a basis. And you are writing this vector, the E1 vector, as a unique way. But the unique way of writing will be 1 times E1 plus 0 times E2 plus 0 times E3 plus 0 times E4. Right? Therefore, C must be 0, B must be 0, A must be 0. That means this is also 0, a contradiction. And similarly, E2, E3, E4. Therefore, I could have taken U equal to E1 or E2 or E3. Yeah, I could have also taken E4. Right? Okay. Now, what do I have? I have S union any one of these vectors U. And this is linearly independent set. And how many elements are there? 4 elements are there. Right? What is the dimension of R4? 4. Therefore, if you have a set of 4 linearly independent elements, then I know this must be a basis by our knowledge about basis. Right? Good. But I would like you to slightly think in a different way. Please PRP. Okay, I want to give an abstract way. Suppose my V, right? Suppose it has a basis. I have a basis. Let us say U1, U2, UN. This is a basis. And suppose I have V1, V2, Vk This is a linearly independent set, right? I want to extend to the basis. What I'm saying is, okay, choose a U in V which is not in L of S, linear span of S. Then S union U will be linearly independent, right? Call this S1, then choose, call it if you want U1, then I choose U2 where in V minus LS of S1. That's it. Then S1 union U2 will be linearly independent. Okay. Since we are dealing with finite dimensional case, finite number of steps, I should complete it. This is the basic idea. In fact, some of the proofs use this idea to prove this. This idea is used to prove this result. But we proved it using number theory. Okay, good. And this is one observation. Second observation is keep the same notation, right? Suppose I have let R equal to n minus k. Suppose I have found v1, v2, vk, okay, union u1, u2, ur. Okay, this is linearly independent. Okay, if I know, not so this is not. Oh my gosh, I'm very sorry. Since it will confuse with u1, u2, un as a basis, let me say w1, w2. This is w1 because this u1 is not the part of the basis. You understand that? What I'm saying is start with the w1, okay, which is in v minus ls1. Any vector will do. Then S union W1 is linearly independent. Then start with the W2 which is V minus Ls of S1. Then S1 union W2 will be linearly independent. You follow that? Okay. This is also true, but I don't want to get into that. Okay, I can choose some. It's not U1, but some UI will be there. Let's note that. Okay, so this is also W1 to W. Okay. I don't even know what is then let us look at this. Okay, this is R. So WR. Okay. R is something. Now suppose this is a linearly independent set, but I know call this set as B. Okay, I had S and S is contained in B. Now I want to claim, okay, suppose U1, U2, UN, they are all in the linear span of B. Okay, then I want to claim if they are in the linear span of this, what does that mean? The linear span of U1, U2, UN, which is B, is a subset of the linear span of B. But you already said B is linearly independent, and this shows B is a spanning set. Am I going fast? See, linear span of U1 to UN is B. But this is contained in linear span of B. But this is contained in B. Therefore, linear span of B equal to B. But what do I know about B? B is linearly independent. And what does this say? B is a spanning set. Therefore, it's linearly independent and a spanning set. Therefore, it's a basis. Therefore, B becomes a basis. Since B is a basis, the number of elements in B is K plus R. But I know the number of elements in any basis is constant. Okay, namely, that's how we define dimension of B, which is n. Therefore, I know K plus R must be n, or R must be n minus K. What does this mean? In the process outlined in 1, I can go up to R steps exactly. Once I reach the R step, I would have got a basis. Okay, please spend some time, understand. Okay, I just wanted to see my recording is happening because last time I missed it, so I'm a little worried. Okay, where are we? Yeah, right. Okay, and now next I want to look at a second example. I don't know what happened to this anyway. So now in our vector subspaces video, okay, I did something very interesting. I want to look at that. Okay, we had, please refer to vector subspaces video. There I looked at the vector subspace span by, this is a linear span of this 1, 2, -1 and 0, 1. No, am I tracking correctly? Let me see. I'm sorry. I seem to have lost thread of it where it is. Yeah, sorry. The example I want to look at is this. V is R3. Okay. And let's look at the set 1, 2, -1 and -1, 0, 1. Right? Okay. So this is my S. This set is linearly independent. Okay. I think all of you know this. Yeah. How do I know that? Okay. If they are linearly dependent, one must be a scalar multiplier of the other. Therefore, if -1, 0, 1 is lambda t times 1, 2, -1, that means t must be -1. But if t is -1, then the second coordinate will be t times 2 will be -2, but that is 0. You understand? Therefore, the none is a scalar multiple of the other. Therefore, this is linearly independent. Good. We found out the linear span of S is the vector subspace, okay, in R3, which satisfies the equation x plus z equal to 0. That is, it is a set of solutions of the single homogeneous equation x plus z equal to 0. Right? Now let's go back. What did I want? According to this process, the algorithm which I said, what I should look for is I should look for a vector w which is not in the linear span of this. Right? Now let's look at that. This is very easy. Okay? If I want some vector which is not in w. Now if give me a vector x, y, z. When is it in w? It is in w if only x plus z is 0. Therefore, the moment I choose x, y, z such that x plus z is not equal to 0, I am through. Do you understand this? Yeah? So what are the choices? I can choose as 1, 0, 0 or 0, 0, 1. Right? Or 1, 0, 1. Any such thing. You understand this? Yeah? Right. So let us see, this is your E1, this is your E3, this is UE1 plus E3. You understand this? Yeah. So I could have done any one of them. Right? So are you happy? So choose your W to be any one of this, E1 or E3 or E1 plus E3. Then S union W is a basis of R3, which includes your S. Do you follow that? Okay. If you want, you should check it. Okay. That they are linear independent, etc. But I want to indicate a few different ways also, just for fun. See, whenever this kind of thing, the best thing is you be creative. Don't be shackled by some standard rigid way of thinking. Just play with it. If you get, it's well and good. If you don't get, it's fine. But then I'm sure it will have given some insight, which will be useful for future problem. Okay. See, let us look at W. Now I know W is the span of these two vectors and these two are linearly independent, and therefore the dimension of W is 2. Therefore, S is a basis for W by very construction. Do you understand? Right? But notice that W, I have X plus Z equal to 0. In our construction of basis video, we have shown how to construct a basis for such W. See, this is already given. This S is a basis, but pretend I have no idea about that. I am given only W as a vector subspace, X plus Z equal to 0. Then I know how to find a solution, because if X, Y, Z belong to W, then Z must be minus X. Therefore, this is X into 1, 0, minus 1 plus Y 0, 1, 0. You understand? Therefore, as a basis, I could have taken 1, 0, minus 1 and 0, 1, 0. This is a basis. This is another basis for W. Yeah? Do you understand this? Okay. I don't know how to make this go. Yeah, okay. Oh, right. You understood? This is E1 minus E3. This is E2. Now go back to the point I said in 2. Yeah. So what I want to do is I want this, therefore, what I can do is I can find some vector. See, suppose I find E3, then E1 minus E3 plus E3 will be E1. Therefore, in the linear span of E1 minus E3, E2 and E3, E1 will be there, E2 is there, E3 is there. Therefore, that's a basis. Do you understand this? So, E1 minus E3 and E2 union this is the basis, right? And E3 is of course not in the linear span of this, which is same as saying E3 is not in there. Are you with me? Sure? Okay. Or I could also taken E3. So I took E3. Suppose I would have also taken E1. Why? Because I can write E1 minus E3 minus E1, because E1, okay, this will be minus E3. Since minus E3 is there, E3 is also there in the linear span. Therefore, this is also basis for R3. Or I could have also taken E1 plus E3. Because E1 minus E3 is already there. E1 plus E3 is there. Therefore, E1 minus E3 plus E1 plus E3 will give me 2E1. Therefore, E1 is also there, and hence E3 is there, etc., etc. Just play with it, okay? Don't worry about whether you will remember, whether you can do on your own, etc. Just play with it. That will give you an idea later when you want how to play with this kind of concepts. Okay. Now there is a third method. Okay, this is slightly, what you call not self-contained, as teachers would say. Now notice that W is a space. Okay, this is a plane given by the equation 1 times X plus 0 times Y plus 1 times Z is 0. That means the normal for this is 1, 0, 1. Okay, normal to the plane. Since it's a normal to the plane, this is E1 plus E3. You understand? Okay, this cannot be in W. Do you appreciate this? I'm just playing with, okay? And you don't have to worry about too much. Just play with it. Okay. I think that's enough. There are one more example we thought of, but I think that's more than enough, because too much of playing is also not good. Okay, this is good enough. So I hope all of you enjoyed. Go through these examples, and if you need, you also make some such example and try to extend on your own. Okay, do not worry about. Okay, in the vector subspaces, we have constructed basis for certain vector subspaces, and you try to extend it to a basis of the full ambient vector space, and try to use this kind of logic. Just to try one or two, then you will appreciate. Okay, and I'm sure you will begin to enjoy linear algebra. Okay. Thanks a lot. We will meet again.